Wrestling fans, are you ready? For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, let's get ready to rumble! I'm back! Miss me?
The spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of WrestleRant Radio right here on EC Radio. Cheap Pop, much like Mick Foley last night on WWE Raw, making his first Monday night appearance in quite a while from, at least I remember anyway, at least 1 or 2 years since we've seen Mrs. Foley's baby boy on Monday Night Raw. So that was extremely exciting. As you can tell, we're all pumped up here on WrestleRant Radio. We've got Hell in a Cell on Sunday for what it's worth. I don't know what that means in 2014 with the product.
It doesn't mean a lot. But...
Yeah, exactly. With the product sucking it as much as it does at this point in time. I'm not exactly sure what it means at this point in time. But with that being said, though, I'm still extremely excited to talk about Raw last night, Hell in a Cell this Sunday, and maybe even a little Total Divas. We got 2 new members on the cast with the 4th season coming January 5th,
I think it's the 4th season. I think it's like the mid-season. I think it's still the 3rd season, but they're like cut in half. Yeah. I think they cut in half, and then like January it's starting the second half of the season.
And still nobody is leaving the show. We've got 2 new members, and then no one else is leaving, from what I know anyway. We'll have to wait and see, but that's another topic for another day. RJ making the money sign over here. That's exactly it. But we'll kick it off here. I got RJ sitting alongside me. How's it going today, RJ?
Doing good as always.
And of course, second time in WrestleRant Radio history, we've got at Heel by Design, a.k.a. John Nichols, a.k.a. John Napolitano, one of my best friends in the world. CM Punk reference right there. John, how's it going today?
Oh, it's me, it's HBD, top of the peak, freak of the week, John Napolitano of Awesomeness I Reek. I'm doing great, Graham. How you doing?
Doing good. And of course, he is the author of John's Jargon at nextyearwrestling.weebly.com. We've talked in length about WWE in the past, and we traded a few tweets last night about Randy Orton's babyface turn and everything else going on in WWE right now, which we will be talking about right here on WrestleRant Radio tonight. But like I said before, we'll kick it off with Mrs. Foley's baby boy, the hardcore legend, former 3-time WWF champion, Mankind, Mick Foley, last night on Monday Night Raw. So how was that, RJ? What was it like to see Mick Foley in living color on WWE Raw last night?
He looked pretty beat up. Saw a noticeable limp walking down to the ring. All those bumps and Hell in a Cell falls and all that stuff kind of worn up to him. And finally, starting to look like he got to him a little bit. It's nice to see Mick Foley. Nothing too major. Obviously, nothing close to The Rock, but I guess with the product being so bad, maybe they keep bringing back older stars just to get like a little pop or just a little more viewership. But his segment was what it was. Nothing too major, but it's nice to see another veteran or legend come around and spice up Raw in a segment that could have needed it.
Oh, absolutely. I think Mick Foley's appearance last night on Monday Night Raw was definitely needed, considering that we had The Rock a few weeks ago on Monday Night Raw. We had Mick Foley tonight. I'm liking these surprise appearances from actual notable names in the wrestling industry. Hopefully, I don't know how many more names you can bring back, like Hulk Hogan. They're bringing back as advertised. It's not a surprise appearance anymore. Maybe you have Shawn Michaels show up unadvertised one of these weeks. I don't know how much that means nowadays, especially with all that they did with HBK about a year ago when he turned heel and all that kind of stuff. But even so, I would love to see HBK, maybe even a little Kurt Angle on Monday Night Raw. I don't know how possible that is. We'll talk about that in a little while in the update on the Olympic gold medalist. But John, I'm going to get your thoughts on this. What were you thinking? What was the first thing that went through your mind when you saw Mick Foley show up on Monday Night Raw last night?
Well, I'm really disappoint you guys really quick. I'm a new college student, all right? You guys got a year on me. I'm a new college student. So as a member of college with 3 other roommates, we do have to share the TV. That is one of the luxuries that I do not get, is being able to watch every second of Monday Night Raw. So what happened was I was away from the TV when Foley made his entrance. As soon as I saw on Twitter that Foley was out there, I drop-kicked my roommate through USA on to see Foley out there. And you know what? I thought the segment was gold. I really did. I thought that Foley gave Rollins and Ambrose a really good rub, which is pretty much what they needed. I mean, it made me invested in the match for Sunday because before his segment on Monday, I really wasn't. Not in either of the main events, to be honest, for Hell in a Cell. But as far as the segment itself, it made me really reminiscent of 2008 when Edge and Undertaker were going to the Hell in a Cell. It was actually right before Foley left for TNA. But it was similar. It was almost the same exact segment, if you recall, where Foley was telling Edge, like, no one comes out of Hell in a Cell a winner. You only survive. Like, it was very. There was a lot of parallelism to that segment and the segment from this past Monday. But other than that, it's always good to see Foley on Raw. So, I was marking out seeing him.
I didn't even think about that, John. You bring up a good point. I remember that segment very vividly. It was from that episode of SmackDown, and I think, interestingly enough, that was the episode of SmackDown that you came over for my house for, and that was the first episode of SmackDown I think we watched together, if I remember correctly.
That is correct. That is a true fact.
So we're coming full circle here on WrestleRant Radio today. But secondly, too, you mentioned this to me the last time we talked a couple days ago, but this is not the first time that you missed a big entrance, a big return here on Monday Night Raw. You missed The Rock's return as well, right?
Oh, college sucks. Yes, I couldn't. Around 10 o'clock, my roommates request that, all right, we've been watching Raw for 2 hours now, or an hour. Yeah, 2 hours now. Do you think that we could maybe change the channel? They're not big wrestling guys, but, I really appreciate them compromising and letting me get my Raw in. But as soon as I saw The Rock coming out, too, I once again drop-kicked my roommate, grabbed the remote, and put The Rock on TV. And they all loved it. They're not even huge wrestling guys. And they all loved watching The Rock just destroy Rusev on the mic, just verbally assault him on the microphone.
I think the biggest thing with all these big returns right now in WWE is that they're all happening during halftime of whatever football game is going on. It was the case with The Rock, with Mick Foley last night, as someone pointed out to me. It's all during the halftime. And RJ, I want to talk to you about this because Jeff came up to me today. Of course, Jeff Stone, whatever his Twitter name is. What is he on Twitter? People want to check him out. Jeff Napalm.
I think it's Jeff Stone 8.
Jeff Stone 8.
His name's Johnny Napalm.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he came up to me today. He said he was not watching Raw in its entirety, and I said I don't blame him whatsoever, considering the fact that the product is so stale right now. I don't blame him whatsoever. But are you one of those people that only tunes in during the halftime, or do you kind of go in and out, or what's the deal there?
Well, I have two TVs in my room, and they're both sitting right next to each other, so I'm a huge Texans fan, so I was watching most of the game last night, but then I have Raw on the other TV too, so I pitch back and forth, but last night I was more watching the game because it's more important, but
it is.
I did see the whole Foley segment. I do watch Raw every week. I have I have two TVs, so
yeah,
and one of them's mine, so I can just keep Raw on if I really feel like it. But I watch it every week. But if the game's really good or something like that, I'll probably shy away from Raw because it really hasn't been too important really lately, and it's pretty much the same old shit every week, same matches, same segments. So I did see the Foley thing, but I see it every week. So.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's what you need to do, John. You need to get two TVs. So you can have your own TV, and then your roommates can have your other one.
So I think that's...
to invest in a second.
Well, Christmas is right around the corner, so you never know.
Yep.
But I think the case is... That's going to be a very similar case with a lot of wrestling fans, especially going into the rest of the year and going into... Because football season ends right around the time that Road to WrestleMania kicks off. So they're probably not going to put a lot of emphasis into whatever's going on right now until WrestleMania season rolls around, which sucks. It was the same thing last year, the year before that. It always happens, so I'm not really surprised. But it is disappointing, though, because they have so much talent. And even though it's the same people, like someone pointed out to me last night on Twitter that, okay, we got a 2-on-3 handicap street fight. Have we ever seen that before? It's something new. I'm like, well, it's not about the stipulation. It's about the fact we see the same people in the main event every single
wasn't even
week.
A street fight. They were tagging in and out.
Exactly.
So
Referee Mike Chioda, he was like, John will know what I'm talking about. You remember the referee, John, at WrestleMania 26? What was his name? Bruce Hart? And he was making all the...
Bruce Hart. Bret Hart's older brother.
Yeah. And he was in, it was a no-holds barred match, and he was, counting them out anyway.
The man was counting to 15. Go back on the WWE Network. You could hear him 13, 14. That's a long count today, Bruce.
That's what it reminded me of last night on Raw when Mike Chioda was when he had him up against the ropes or in the corner, he was counting. Now, I don't know if he was counting, but he was bring him out. He was why? It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
In a perfect world, Orton and Kane could have gone out into that ring at any point in that matchup and just beaten the crap out of him.
I tweeted JR, for the off chance that he might tweet me back.
And he did one time, too.
He did. He has tweeted me before, but I was thinking, why is there a tag rope system in this handicap street fight? These guys could literally enter the ring whenever they so choose. And they could just knock the referee out and just brawl into the crowd. Like, it doesn't. Why is Cena holding onto the tag rope?
Exactly. There's so many small things. What is wrong with wrestling now in 2014? It's all those little small things. And JR points them out on his podcast all the time, and I don't really blame him. I know we're not going to go back to the old school days. I understand that, but it's sometimes these very small, intricate things that make the biggest difference in wrestling. But we'll go back to the topic at hand here. Mick Foley. John, I'll ask you real quick. Do you think Mick Foley is going to be sticking around here in WWE? Do you think he signed a new contract, a new Legends contract, or do you think it was just a one-off appearance for the hardcore legend?
That's tough to say. I know he's very dedicated to what he does outside of the WWE. I know he takes a lot of pride in everything he does outside the ring. So I wouldn't expect to see him too often. I imagine that, this was a stunt to really pull over the viewership from the Monday Night Football game going on. But I wouldn't mind seeing Foley, in a more active role. But I wouldn't expect to see him around too much.
I know he was polling his Facebook fans earlier today on one of his posts or something that he usually puts up about what role they would like to see him in on WWE TV. He said he had a few ideas of his own. I know he was on WWE TV regularly, if you can even count this, but the Saturday Morning Slam show that they had a couple years ago, I know that he was a general manager of that show. They never really utilized him after that, after the show went defunct. And I think he refused to sign the Legend contract earlier this year, so it'll be interesting to see if he signs a new contract with them and shows up every once in a while. Like a couple years ago when he first came back, and he did that whole thing with John Cena. Remember that? The This Is Your Life thing with the mock of what Rock did with Mick Foley. And when Mick Foley, his first appearance back in the WWE in over 3 years, since that segment that John was talking about before, he did that terrible segment. And I know he loves Christmas, but he was Foley Claus a couple times. He never did anything meaningful. But last night's segment I thought was great. It definitely put emphasis on Hell in a Cell, especially the Rollins and Dean Ambrose match, which has been building for 4 or 5 months now. So that was really, really helpful. But RJ, I'll ask you, do you see Mick Foley sticking around going forward?
No, I don't think so. I feel like he was brought in for the Hell in a Cell to spice it up a little bit since he's pretty much the king of Hell in a Cell. But I don't know. He's not going to wrestle anytime soon. I don't see him doing anything like announcing or just. He's more of like a come once in a lifetime kind of like come back once in every certain amount of time and make a little splash, but nothing too major.
Yeah, I think you only show up every once in a while. And like you said, he only showed up to put over the destructivity of the Hell in a Cell, how vicious that cell structure can be. And if you really think about it, going into Hell in a Cell, we really haven't heard much about that whatsoever. I know Kane kind of commented on it in passing a couple weeks ago, might have been on SmackDown, but Mick Foley was really the only one, aside from that video package last night, that said Hell in a Cell is all about the numbers, like they do with the Chamber every year and Royal Rumble, Money in the Bank. Yeah. They do it all those kind of matches too, so I'm glad to see they put that up, but aside from that cell structure, it hasn't meant anything in years, and we'll get into this probably right now. We'll probably talk about it right now. RG, I'll start with you. Do you think the Hell in a Cell has, first of all, lost all meaning? I'm pretty sure I know the answer to what I'm about to ask you. But, and do you think the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view is necessary? Do you think the match is necessary? And do you think it really has any buying power? Do you think people are going to buy this pay-per-view just because it has 2 Hell in a Cell matches on the card this Sunday?
I think for newer fans, they might buy it just because it has Hell in a Cell, but it doesn't have the meaning as it used to do. It's just like the pay-per-view concepts of all these specialty ones are just so stupid. I just don't understand it. Instead of having like someone fight in a Hell in a Cell because it actually means something, they have a pay-per-view. Like, why the hell do we have to see Randy Orton and Cena in a Hell in a Cell? Their feud's not like to the point that Hell in a Cell is like the end-all be-all.
Exactly.
Like, that's what it used to be like. That used to end feuds like Triple H and Kevin Nash and like all those good matches. Batista, Triple H, like. Used to have great Hell in a Cell matches like that ended feud, stuff like that. And now it's just kind of like, oh, Hell in a Cell again. Like that's like kind of like TLC and like
it's a time of the Chamber. Year again. Exactly.
Money in the Bank's still good, but it's just because it's the concept of Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
But like that's just like it just kills Hell in a Cell because like it doesn't like mean much if Randy Orton and Cena are in it or like it means something I guess for Ambrose and Rollins. Cause hopefully they just finish that feud because it's been going on for so long. But it just. The concept alone's stupid. I just hate all the specialty pay-per-views in general, but it's what it is. Can't really complain about it when nothing's going to get changed.
It's just that time of the year again. I mean, they've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now. I think it first started in 2009, so about 5 years, and I can't believe it's been that long. But I just don't see the pay-per-view numbers going up. And I know it's different now with the WWE Network. It's not about the pay-per-view numbers, but it's not a drawing point in 2014. Maybe it would have been for like a one-off match. Like you said, if they do it at SummerSlam one year, like when they did it at WrestleMania between Undertaker and Triple H, was it necessary? Arguably, maybe. Arguably, probably not. I thought it was cool, though, considering the Undertaker and Triple H are two of the Hell in a Cell veterans. You can go either way, but at least it enhanced the specialness of that matchup. You know what I mean? Randy Orton and John Cena, they faced off in the cell 5 years ago. Maybe it would have meant something more 5 years ago when they were actually in a feud together. Now it's just a loser of this match and the loser of that match facing each other inside the match that's supposed to be the be-all, end-all of all feuds, but this is not really a feud. It's more of a feud that we've seen so many times.
Or a recycled feud, pretty much.
Exactly, and they like to put it over as one of the greatest feuds in WWE history. Maybe it is one of the biggest feuds in recent memory. I wouldn't call it the greatest. I would say Punk and Cena was better. Edge and Cena was better by far. But they just don't have great chemistry. In the ring, they've never really had the amazing matches, you know what I mean? I like Cena, I like Orton, but in the ring together, they don't make the best of opponents, you know what I mean? Especially inside the cell. I guess we'll see on Sunday. But, John, I'll ask you, do you think the cell structure has lost all meaning? Do you think they need to eradicate the overall concept of the pay-per-view altogether?
Well, I argued in 2009 when they first announced that the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view is going to be a year-round thing, that this is going to ruin the match. I mean, like RJ just said, it's a match that adds feuds. It's a match where a long storied rivalry culminates into the Hell in a Cell. And I knew when they were going to make this into an annual pay-per-view that there's going to be something wrong with it. And I actually wrote an article about this on John's Jargon about the longevity of concepts in the WWE. And really, when you think about it, how long can they air the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view until it becomes worthless? Which, in my opinion, it already is. It's a match that we're being, if you will, we're being force-fed. All right, they're doing the Hell in a Cell match for the sake of doing the Hell in a Cell match. To be honest, these rivalries, like, there may be an argument for Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins because they've been feuding since early this summer, and but John Cena and Randy Orton, there's just absolutely no reason to put these guys in the confines of a cell at all whatsoever. But I really do appreciate Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose going into the cell, but like I said, it doesn't mean as much as it used to. So I don't know.
No, I definitely agree. I think Ambrose and Rollins does deserve to be in that cell, and I've talked about this a couple times in the past, but I think Ambrose and Rollins can be one of those feuds that they can go back to multiple times over the next couple of years. It's one of those Triple H and Shawn Michaels feuds, which was also in a cell. I'm not putting them that on the same
level. Don't put them even close that high.
No, I'm just saying they're the equivalent. I'm not saying one of them's Triple H. I'm just saying it's that kind of feud. You know what I mean?
I don't know if it's that kind of feud either. That's probably one of the best feuds ever.
I was kind of disappointed. Or actually, it is in 2K15, isn't it? It's one of those feuds that you can relive along with John Cena. I believe it is, which is pretty cool to see because I love Triple H and Shawn Michaels. They had a heck of a Hell in a Cell match. Actually, we'll get to that in a little bit, our favorite Hell in a Cell matches, but I definitely do agree that Ambrose and Rollins may have an argument to be inside the cell, but for the most part, though, the cell structure, the pay-per-view as a whole, needs to be done away with because it's not bringing in any new fans for the most part. It's not doing anything for the matches. If you rank the best Hell in a Cell matches of all time,
none of them are even on that pay-per-view.
Yeah, exactly. All of them, every single Hell in a Cell match from the last 5 years, with the exception of Taker and Triple H from WrestleMania 28, would not be on that list. You know what I mean? So
I'd actually like to make one point. And this was another thing that I read on JR's Twitter, and it was in a PG era, what is creative going to do with two Hell in a Cell matches that can differentiate between the two and make it seem like a hellish structure? Meaning, how many spots can they do in Rollins and Ambrose's match that they're not going to do in Cena and Orton's match, but still make them seem like dangerous matches? Like I said, it's 2014. No one's climbing up and no one's getting thrown off. So really, you're confined into the cell. How many spots can you do with two main-event matches to make the matches seem unique but equally dangerous?
And that's exactly why they should only have one Hell in a Cell match. If they're going to keep this pay-per-view, if they're going to be stubborn and keep the pay-per-view, we can't really do anything about it. But if they're going to do that, they need to have at least only one Hell in a Cell match. They can't have two because Cena and Orton, I don't know why they're doing it with them. I mean, there have been pay-per-views in the past where we only got one cell match. There's been a pay-per-view in the past where we got 3 Hell in a Cell matches. But on this show, the only real match in need of it is Ambrose and Rollins. But with that being said, though, John, I'll ask you first. Do you think that Ambrose and Rollins will main event Sunday's pay-per-view, or do you think that they might give the nod to Cena and Orton due to star power?
That's actually a really tough question. As far as the superior of the two matches, who's going to put on a better show, you got to hand off to Rollins and Ambrose. You can put your money on them. They're going to put on the better match. They're going to have a more entertaining match. So as far as entertainment value, I as a general manager or as a booker would put Ambrose Rollins on last. But in order to make John Cena and Randy Orton not seem like an afterthought, which they are, but in order to make it seem like, oh yeah, this is a number one contenders match, definitely, let's put them on last so it feels special. But there's no reason to put them on last. Like I said, I'm not going to get into this because I can talk for hours about how this match means nothing. But if I were the booker, if I had the book, I would put Ambrose and Rollins on last.
From a storyline standpoint, I think it does make the most sense to put Ambrose and Rollins on last, especially since it's not like I said before, it's not really all about bringing in the viewers. It's not a Royal Rumble pay-per-view. It's not a WrestleMania pay-per-view where I can see where they might be a little hesitant to put 2 young guys in the main event. But this is a pay-per-view that's always done poorly in pay-per-view buys, that people aren't going to really buy regardless. So why not take a chance and put 2 young, up-and-coming guys in the main event? You know what I mean? So it really doesn't make much sense to me if they put Cena and Orton in the main event just because it's a number one contenders match, because you take that away, there's nothing to this match whatsoever. There's no feud. There's nothing.
I actually, to correct you and recant my statement, if you go back to last night's Raw, when they advertised this match for this Sunday, it did not say a number one contenders match.
It's a future title shot.
The winner gets a title shot.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe that it's not happening at Survivor Series.
No, yeah.
It's a future title shot. I didn't specify when it was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get to that in a little bit.
I've read that they want to keep Lesnar out of the ring until next year.
Yeah, we talked about that last week, and then they might keep him off TV to the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, which I could see them doing. I don't want to see it, and not by any stretch of the imagination, but we'll get into that a little bit when we get into our Cena-Orton predictions. But RJ, I ask you now, what do you think should main event, and what do you think will main event Hell in a Cell this Sunday? Ambrose and Rollins or John Cena and Randy Orton?
I think Ambrose and Rollins should end it, but I feel like Cena and Orton are going to end it. Some reason after Raw, I feel like there might be some Lesnar involvement in the match. After Orton RKO'd
Paul
Heyman. Maybe get a double DQ or knock them both out. Maybe a triple threat for the title. I don't know. He still has that bad blood with Cena. Orton RKO'd Heyman, so there might be some bad blood there. So I don't know. I feel like Ambrose and Rollins, if they're going to have some good spots, then Ambrose and Rollins should end it they could maybe them two could escape the cage or break the door down or something, go through the cage, Ambrose tackles on the cage, and then obviously can't repair the cage for the next match. So I feel like if you want to get better spots, stuff like that, a better finish, go with Ambrose and Rollins. But how it is a championship-esque match, I guess, they probably would lean towards Cena and Orton. It's not I don't know, I feel like they just don't, if they're going to highlight the pay-per-view, they're going to have Cena and Orton's name on it.
Yeah.
If you're going to buy the pay-per-view, you're going to buy Cena Orton over Ambrose and Rollins.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I know from a storyline standpoint, it makes more sense to put Ambrose and Rollins in the main event, but if we're talking about star power here, and we're talking about fans that have no idea what's going on right now, who would you buy the pay-per-view for? 2 guys you don't even know, or John Cena and Randy Orton?
Exactly.
So from that standpoint, I understand. From a business standpoint, I get why they would do it, but as a fan, I don't really want to see it. Ambrose and Rollins makes the more sense of
but say that they do put on a hell of a match and then Cena and Orton have a good match, would you really care that Cena and Orton were last? Or I don't think it really matters who's last, because I feel like they can come up with creative spots because 2 totally different matches. So I'm not gonna bawl my eyes out of Cena and Ambrose. It's not gonna be that big of a deal if they aren't last, but it is what it is. I don't know. I feel like they're gonna probably put the match that has bigger implications last. Dean Ambrose and Rollins, just the end of a feud. Cena and Orton are going for a title shot, so.
I just think it really all comes down to what will be the better match. I understand there's more on the line in terms of the Cena Orton match now with the title match hanging in the balance. I understand that. But that being said, I mean, it's really hard to say, but Cena and Orton, they did have a good cell match a couple years ago. But aside from that, it all really goes back to what I was saying before. They've never really had the best of chemistry.
Yeah, but if you go enough skill over how good the match is, then why was Payback that finisher? The end of Payback was Daniel Bryan versus Kane.
Oh, and Extreme Rules?
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Extreme Rules, and then there was Shield versus Evolution, which was a way better match. You kind of gotta, like, I don't know. I feel
True,
like
but that was a title match.
it was a title match, but still, it's Kane and Daniel Bryan.
I know.
It's Kane. Come on, people.
Kane in 2014 does really nothing for me. Who's the new movie? He's out today. See No Evil 2, if you want to get it on DVD, which they were promoting the heck out of last night on Monday Night Raw. Yeah, $9.99 exactly. Yeah, it'll probably be on the VOD section of the WWE Network before long. But that being said, though, a lot of talk about that on Monday Night Raw from last night. Other really talking points, not much aside from Mick Foley, Orton, Cena, all that other kind of stuff. Actually, on the topic of Randy Orton, we talked about this a little bit before RJ, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And John and I were talking about it last night on Twitter. RJ, I'll ask you first. Randy Orton, he's been a very interesting one to watch over the last couple of weeks. I mean, we predicted this about a month or so ago, but it's finally starting to come to fruition. A Randy Orton babyface turn. It wasn't really evident in the promo, but the RKOing of Paul Heyman and also getting attacked by Seth Rollins afterwards. Do you see a Randy Orton babyface turn happening within the very near future? Do you want to see a Randy Orton babyface turn? And do you think a match with Seth Rollins is in the cards before the end of 2014 or even at WrestleMania?
I feel like he's going to be, like, he's on that turn to become a babyface, but he's going to be like the anti-hero babyface, so he's still kind of a bad guy. Because look at, if they get rid of him as a heel, they have Seth Rollins and Kane. That's pretty much it. So they can't really afford to lose him as a heel, so pretty much anti-heel. Like, he's still going to be that sinister, like, bad guy, I guess. But he's obviously going to go against heels as well. But I feel like Orton has kind of been treading water since WrestleMania. So hopefully he gets a direction. Maybe go against Lesnar, which could be a brand new, not a brand new feud, but a feud that's fresh that we haven't seen in so long. Even though they wrestled a little bit in 2002, but nothing too notable that newer fans would even know about. So hopefully Orton gets a babyface run and can go against Lesnar and get a new fresh start. And maybe, I guess, if waiting to fight against Lesnar, if that title shot takes X amount of months, he can wrestle against Seth Rollins, and then maybe Cena and Dean Ambrose can spark up their feud again. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think that a babyface turn's good for anyone. He's starting to get starting to get over a little bit more now, and
he's getting more momentum.
Yeah, and I feel like it's his time right now to start sparking up towards WrestleMania season.
I'm finally getting excited about the Randy Orton character for the first time in a long time. Because like you said before, I want that 2010 Randy Orton back, that anti-hero. And I think last night's segment was so a prime example of that. Because he not only attacked John Cena, but he attacked Paul Heyman too. So if he kind of, plays that boundary, I'm not saying he should be the next Stone Cold Steve Austin, but if he goes after the baby faces and the Paul Heymans and the heels, then I would like to see that, because I think that's where Randy Orton does his best work. He can be a great heel, don't get me wrong. That's also where he shines, like we've seen, in small doses over the last couple of months, but it's never consistent. As long as he's associated with the Authority, which he will be for as long as he's a heel, then we'll never really get that great Orton that we've, come to know over the last 10 years or so, you know what I mean? And I really, like you said before, really, really, really want to see him and Brock Lesnar. They did have one-off match on SmackDown in like 2002 or something, but like you said, RJ, never on the caliber of a pay-per-view, never over a championship, and I would take that years over a John Cena, Brock Lesnar 4, or even 5 if you count their Backlash match from 2003. I would take that over Cena and Lesnar again any day of the week. But John, I'm bringing this to you. Your thoughts on Randy Orton possibly going anti-hero? Do you think it's the best thing for his character at this point in time?
Well, we all know that no Orton babyface run is a real babyface run. Me and Graham have said this countless times. Orton could punt a baby in the skull, and people will love it. So I'd like to see Orton become, the tweener that he was. You mentioned 2010, but I kind of dug the 2012 Randy Orton, where he was more babyface than tweener, but he's still the badass mutton chops and everything. That was where I thought he shined in 2012 or 2011. I apologize, 2011.
The feud with Christian, yeah.
Yeah, Christian feud. I'm sorry. That's my bad. But no, I definitely like to see a change in Randy Orton's character. One thing that I definitely like to see is that, if Orton does become face, then the Authority is losing its, obviously not its major star, but its credibility. Because all you have is Triple H, Seth Rollins, and Kane. So hopefully, if Orton were to become babyface, leave the Authority would go on the decline, stop appearing on television so much. Maybe Triple H can become the unbiased Authority. Not necessarily out to get John Cena, but just a guy in power that we don't see on TV every week opening the show. Because without Orton, it's just Kane and Seth Rollins. Then we can transition into a period post-Authority, which is something I've been waiting for months now. But I'd really like to see a new direction for Randy Orton. And as far as him going up against Brock Lesnar, I think he has a lot of not credibility to begin with. There's a long way to go before he can get up that level. Because it seems like, to me, if he were to just automatically be thrown into a program with Brock Lesnar, it's like, oh, well, Orton, you're the number 2 guy here, and John Cena's got nothing going on. So, why don't you go up against Brock Lesnar? So I think that Orton's going to have a program prior to going up against Brock Lesnar. If I had the book, which, the world would be a better place if I had the book, what I do is I cement Orton as a babyface, and then have him go against Ambrose, tweener versus tweener, for a couple months. And that leads him up to Brock Lesnar. In the meantime, we got Cena and Rollins going at it. But yeah, that's in my imaginative world. But I'd really like to see a new direction for Randy Orton.
The Authority has been around for so long now. I think it's time to do away with it. And I think a lot of people thought it was going to be blown off at WrestleMania this past year after Daniel Bryan beat Triple H. Daniel Bryan's the new champion, all this kind of stuff. But it still went on, and they're still kicking off the show. I think it was you, John, that tweeted me last night that was saying, how many times have we seen this on Raw for the last couple of months? And I even said, we've been seeing it for the last year and a half in Monday Night Raw with the Authority kicking off the show. And I definitely agree. I think Raw would be great. I think Triple H, as great of a heel as he is, the whole Authority stable, especially with Kane involved, and Kane in main events on Raw in 2014 does nothing for me whatsoever. But the role that Triple H has in NXT as that, proud dad kind of role, you know what I mean? Like, that kind of role, I think he shines as that kind of character. So I would like to see him kind of transition into that at some point in time. Not the babyface Triple H where everything revolves around him in 2011, where the whole walkout thing and Triple H was the number 1 guy in the company. I'm not a fan of that Triple H, but if he's heel, he's got to go on his own. But if he's not, the tweener kind of Triple H where he's unbiased and he's not on TV every single week, and it's not doing anything for the ratings either. I know they started bringing back the McMahons about a year and a half ago for ratings purposes, but Triple H has been on TV for so long now that it's not doing anything for anybody. So
one thing that I conceived actually was the Authority is as still as a brick. But what happens if maybe bring Shane McMahon into the fray, throw him as a new member of the Authority? That would give it so much more flair, so much more rub. That would be a whole new meal for me to digest. So that was just a thought I had. Well, what if you had Shane McMahon in there as the evil cohort to Triple H?
People were thinking that Shane McMahon would be back before WrestleMania this year to rival the Authority, either him or Vince, and that never really happened. But whether he's a heel or a babyface, Shane McMahon should be back in WWE. I think we've talked about this at length before, right, RJ?
We have, but I don't know. I don't see him. He has no involvement in the company right now. I don't see him coming back anytime soon.
I don't think he'll be back in a solid role like that. I would love him to be. I don't see it being likely. I know he mentioned in an interview.
Why wouldn't you guys see that as a likely possibility?
I don't see it as a possibility right now because he has no involvement with the company at all. He has no stake in the company right now.
Neither did Mick Foley, though.
Yeah, but you're not going to put Shane McMahon. He's not going to quit his other or leave his other job that he's like a VP at just to come back to be a part of the Authority. If he's going to come back, it's going to be something big. If anything, it'd be like him versus Triple H for something big in the company or something like that. Like, it has to be something big for him to come back. He's getting older too.
I'm not saying put him in tights, but you're telling me if Shane McMahon's music hit, you wouldn't pop like a little girl if his music hit?
I'd pop, but I just don't think just because he comes back, he has to be in an active role to really like cement Shane McMahon's back.
Well, let's
say he's not an active role. Let's say he comes back, gets the pop, gets the ratings. Everyone tells their friends, "Oh my God, Shane McMahon's on Raw. Watch Raw." And then Randy Orton punches him in the head. All right, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, bring Shane McMahon to the fray. Make it a little more interesting. Give me a different flavor. All right, you've been feeding me, steak and potatoes since SummerSlam 2013. Throw a little green beans in there.
I don't know. I feel like Shane McMahon's best days are him in the ring. Hey, like I said, he's never really been in a authority kind of role, really. He's always been on his own when he was 03 against Kane, stuff like that. He came back with the McMahons, but he's never...
In 99 with the corporation, he was with his dad.
Yeah, but that's early. He was a referee still at that point. But, 03 and stuff, when he came back for Linda, for the sake of the McMahons, go against Kane. That was a great Shane McMahon feud. Obviously, that was one of the better feuds in 03, but, that, cemented Shane McMahon. He'll do whatever it takes to fight for his family. Hell in a Cell, he went that last man standing match against Kane, the ambulance match against Kane, that fight for your family kind of mentality, kind of sparked Shane McMahon. He came back, did the whole DX McMahon thing, but that was kind of his last run. It wasn't no one really they fought for Shane McMahon, but it's kind of the died down Shane McMahon.
Let me paint a picture. Triple H continues on his heel run until post-WrestleMania 31. Everyone's getting real tired of Triple H. He's gotten too big for his britches to run in WWE. He thinks he owns the place. He thinks he's got no competition coming his way. He's doing his thing in WWE. You hear Shane McMahon's music pop into the ring. The arena goes crazy. They go haywire. He comes into the ring and says, "No, this is your company. This is my company." Boom, that's 7 months of booking right there. Shane McMahon gets the stable. Triple H has the authority. Those stables go together. I'm telling you, that's gold right there. Gold. Honestly, I'd rather have Shane McMahon come back and fight against the authorities than have them do whatever they're doing for the next 3 months.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I just want if he's coming back, it better be in a physical role. I don't want to see him in the back. Shane McMahon, him in a nice street fight right now would really spice it up. I don't know. I feel I love Shane McMahon. I just think if he's coming back, it better be physical. I would love to see him in Triple H street fight, WrestleMania, a big match, but I don't see him like you said, it needs something to spice up. Shane McMahon would spice up, but do that many people really know who Shane McMahon is? Stephanie McMahon's on TV, so people know, oh, Stephanie McMahon, she's Triple H's wife, and Vince is Shane McMahon hasn't been a lot kids nowadays probably don't even know who Shane McMahon really is because he's not brought up. They don't bring him up enough.
He's Larry Zbyszko, but if you've been watching for the last, not even a decade, the last 8 or 7 years, you know the name Shane McMahon. I mean, all three of us know Shane McMahon. I'm sure there are hundreds of people like us, thousands of people like us, millions of people like us.
Yeah, but like I said, kids, like you said, maybe a couple of years ago when he was on a lesser role, people 10 years ago knew who Shane McMahon was. He was in the company. He was a VP. He was wrestling. He was in big storylines. He's not in he hasn't been brought up Linda and all them. They're still mentioned. Nowadays you don't hear much about Shane McMahon.
Well, I don't know if kids these days are just lazy, but when I was 10 years old and a name came out into the ring and I had no idea who they were, I hopped in the Google machine and I Googled their name. I see Shane McMahon coming back as no problem to the 10-year-olds out there. And all you got to say is, I'm Shane McMahon. If you don't remember who I am, I'm Shane McMahon, the son of Vince McMahon, and boom, 10-year-olds are caught up.
And that's where the WWE Network comes in, too. I mean, I think you can just go up and search the name, but I think the thing is here that I would love to see Shane McMahon back in WWE. That's the bottom line. Whether he's a babyface or a heel, I don't care what he's doing. I would love to see him back. But what I'm saying is, I just don't see it being likely. Like you said before, I think Shane said in an interview before WrestleMania this year, they asked him if he'd be interested in coming back. He said, it's not in the cards right now. Maybe at some point. I don't see him being a regular character. A one-off appearance, I could definitely see.
Exactly. I could see him a one-off appearance, him fighting Triple H, maybe a month feud for stake in the company or ownership of the company when Vince obviously moves along.
I can't see.
But I don't see him coming back. He's a VP of some
he's doing
blockbuster
right
kind of thing in China. He's a VP. He's older at his age. I don't see him coming back for anything too major right now.
And that's his thing, too. I think if you look up a picture of Shane McMahon, recently, he looks exactly like his father. He's gray hair now and all this other kind of stuff. He's not the same guy that we saw on TV. I think maybe 5 years ago, and I know they wouldn't go back to that, but it was Orton who took him out of commission in the first place. He punted him in the head. Shane McMahon could come back and rival Randy Orton and the Authority if he was still a part of the Authority at that point in time, and Triple H. I would love to see him in one more match, but I think it's past that point where he can still work a match. I have no idea. We haven't seen him in such a long time. But on a side note, though, WWE.com did a poll on their website a couple of months ago asking who they would like to see back in WWE, and they were all realistic choices. Or I'm sorry, not who they would like to see back, who they would like to see one more match from. I think it was Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold, The Undertaker, and out of all of those people, Shane McMahon got the highest poll, got the highest voting in that poll. So it goes to show that people do know who Shane is. I just don't think, like I said before, it's possible that we see him.
44 years old.
I just don't see it being a regular thing for him to be on TV with the Authority every single week. Maybe for like a one-off thing or like a maybe 1 month thing going into WrestleMania. But aside from that, I don't think it's possible. Would love to see it, just don't see it being all that likely. But we'll transition from that a little bit to talk about something a little more comedic, I guess. Damien Mizdow, Damien Sandow, around this time a year ago, actually a year ago today or a year ago next week, he cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase, lost to John Cena, and he's been a jobber ever since. But in the last couple of months, and I was over at your house, John, when he made his debut as Damien Mizdow, and I'm thinking, wow, this is really dumb, but he's made it into something really entertaining every single week. So, RJ, I ask you first, do you think that he's making the most of this gimmick? Do you think he's going to stick with it for the very near future? And do you think they might kind of transition into a Mizdow feud at some point in time after what happened last night on Raw?
Obviously, I feel like he's doing the best he can with the feud. It's kind of like Cody Rhodes doing the best Stardust gimmick.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
what it is, your job. He's working. He's got to make the character stick. He does. I love how he impersonates The Miz during the matches. He does exactly what happens. It's actually pretty funny. I think he obviously wants to be in a bigger role than he is, obviously. I don't think anyone wants to be someone's stunt double or sidekick. They want to be the main event, obviously. But I feel like he's doing his best he can now. He's getting over with the fans. I hope he doesn't go back to the old his old gimmick. I feel like that's kind of in the past. Can't really go back to that, yes. But I feel like they could work to a Mizdow feud if he keeps getting over. The Miz keeps getting mad. He beat Sheamus. Maybe the Miz loses Sheamus again.
Exactly, yeah.
Mizdow says, "Oh, I beat Sheamus." They kind of brags about it, and then they kind of feud. I could see a feud like that. But like I said, after the Mizdow character, where does the Damien Sandow character evolve to next? Is the bigger question out of the whole thing. But I would like to see it something fresh, a new feud, be a reasonable feud for a reason. I'd like to see it. I like the character, how he's getting over now, and that's pretty much it about Damien Mizdow.
People often make the comparison with Damien Sandow earlier on in his career to Hunter Hearst Helmsley. How I'm not saying Damien Sandow's the next Triple H, but and like you said before,
he can't terrible gimmick and kind of work with it.
Exactly. He can't go back to what he was before. But if he can kind of become maybe more rebellious or the D-Generation X kind of Triple H, he's not showing his ass every single week. He doesn't need to do that. But a little more edgy, I guess you could say, for Damien Sandow. He did that about a year ago after he lost to John Cena in an awesome match. He showed some more character development. But then after that, they made him job so much that it lost all meaning, and he hadn't really gone anywhere since. But, John, I know even dating back to 2 years ago when you and I were doing Save Us GSM, I remember you were never really the biggest Damien Sandow fan, so I'm really interested to get your thoughts on this. Are you a fan of the Damien Mizdow character? Do you see it going places, and do you think Damien Sandow is more capable of what he's being given right now?
I really enjoy the concept of Miz having a stunt double. I thought that was great. In a business and an industry, when you think you've seen it all, that's something that when it first debuted, I was like, wow, I've never seen that. That is great. Miz has a stunt double. How cheap is that? But so when I first saw the concept, I was down with it. I dug it. But currently, I'm just one of those people who's not huge on Damien Sandow. I think he's doing the best he can with what he's given. And Booking 101 states that, Sandow turns face at the end of all this, has a feud with Miz, goes over, and then, he's a solid babyface. It's Booking 101 right there. But for what he's given, Sandow's doing all right. And to make a comparison, I know people said he's Triple H's a project, but for you to say, you gotta turn the gear into DX Triple H next, that's a little out there, Graham. But
it's a bold statement, I know.
I like what he's doing. I like it a lot better than being the savior of the unwashed masses.
What I'm hoping they do is that he continues to get over, and like you said before, maybe they have Miz turn on him, or maybe vice versa even, and then he goes on to become a solid babyface. But the only problem here that I might foresee is that it goes back to The Miz and Alex Riley from a couple years ago, when Alex Riley was The Miz's lackey. He turned on Miz. Remember, people were chanting his name that night. He was one of the most over guys at that point in time.
How'd he do?
Alex Riley, that's exactly it. They had a good feud, but after he went over on The Miz, and The Miz, a win over The Miz in 2014 is not the same as it was in 2011. But even still, though, I don't think, like with Alex Riley, he was doing so well that year, that after that breakup with The Miz, and he beat him and all this other kind of great stuff, and then they did nothing with him. He just faded off in obscurity, and that's what I'm fearful with Damien Sandow. They're thinking, okay, he's making the most of this gimmick. He's not supposed to be getting cheered, so let's punish him for it. I don't know how likely that is. It's just a scenario here. And then they just have Miz turn on him, and they abandon the gimmick, and that's it. And Damien Sandow's off TV for how many months, whatever. So I don't want to say that's going to happen, but it's just a thought. I don't really want to see Damien Sandow off TV. I want to see him get over with this gimmick, abandoning it, and then go on to do better things. I'm not saying he's going to be a world champion, but he is capable of bigger and better things in WWE. So with that being said, we'll transition from that into our Hell in a Cell predictions for this upcoming Sunday. WWE Hell in a Cell live on the WWE Network tonight, Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 Central Time. And speaking of Damien Mizdow, they will be on the pre-show. I think it's Damien Mizdow TV, and then The Miz is going to be the guest or something silly like that, but there's no bonus match as of right now.
Yeah, it's, like they said pre-show was Usos and the Star Brothers, or I think I saw that today.
I don't know if they're going to be on the pre-show. I know that's added to the show itself, but I know Paul Heyman's on the panel. So I don't know how much that means. I mean, Paul Heyman's great and all, but I never watched the pre-show, so we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But kicking off the show, though, we'll talk about that first. The WWE Tag Team titles will be on the line. Stardust and Goldust defending the WWE Tag Team titles against the Usos in a rematch from Night of Champions. John, I'll start with you. Who do you got for this matchup?
This is a shocking one because Stardust and Goldust have been on a roll. But in the world of WWE right now, titles mean nothing. So I'm going to go with the Usos in this one. I'm going to say that the Usos go over, and hopefully we see the team Goldust and Stardust break up.
I'm going to say that the Usos have more potential challengers as champions than Goldust and Stardust do. Because let's say they beat the Usos on Sunday. After that, where do they go? So I'm thinking the Usos win back the belts on Sunday. They're going to defend against the Ascension. And let's say Mizdow and Miz don't break up immediately. They can have them go for the tag team titles and maybe prolong that a little bit, and then have Sandow break up with Miz a little later down the line, maybe going into WrestleMania season. I'm not really sure, but I've got the Usos here as well. 2 for the Usos, none for Stardust and Goldust. RJ, what are your thoughts in this contest? Who do you see going over?
So, I was gonna say Goldust and Stardust, but I can see where you're coming from with the feuds, but what's the point of having them win at Night of Champions just to lose? They're hot right now. I feel like people are over on them right now. I feel like I've actually starting to like them a little bit more now. I could see, like they said, there's no one really to feud with after, but I just don't know why you'd give them. What's the 1 month title run really? Like you said, titles don't mean much right now. So
no, but that's exactly it though. They did the same thing with AJ and Dolph.
Yeah, but that was a good feud though. It was different. I don't think AJ should have lost in the first place, but people beg to differ. Like I said, I think the Wyatt should have won the titles a while ago. That never happened. I'm just gonna go with Stardust and Goldust. I don't think there's any point of them losing. I feel like they're hot right now. Why kill them while they're hot? I'm gonna go with Dust Brothers.
We got Dust Brothers, 2 for the Usos. Up next on the WWE Hell in a Cell show, we've got for the Divas Championship, speaking of AJ Lee and Paige, the Divas title is on the line. AJ will be going one-on-one with the former Divas champion Paige, who was recently added to the Total Divas cast. Could that affect the outcome of this contest? RJ, I bring this to you. Who do you see going over?
AJ.
AJ? Still Divas champion? Do you see the end? Do you see the feud ending after this point, or do you see it, that's it? Do you see it continuing?
I see it continuing, probably.
Going into the Survivor Series or the rest of the year?
Shit, that was a hard one. I'll say end of the year, why not?
End of the year? Yeah, there's really no other potential challengers for that Divas title right now, so I got to go with AJ. I mean, they've traded the title so many times in 2014 that it's ridiculous, and this feud has been very underwhelming in my opinion, which sucks, because John and I were in attendance for when AJ won back the title in the first place in Hartford, and I was really excited for that feud, but they did the whole lesbian thing, the best friend thing, whatever the hell they're doing right now, and I don't know, they really lost their way with this feud, but that's aside from the point. John, who do you got going over in this contest?
The sad part is, if AJ does go over, let's say she does, I don't see what she does next. I mean, I know that, you got all those divas that have really been forgotten over the last couple months, But I think that there's a lot more to do with Paige winning the title back. There's a lot more to do, and you could really expand on it. I'd like to see AJ win, but I'm going to go with Paige for all this stuff.
You could see like AJ Lee like Nikki Bella feud if Nikki Bella goes over at Hell in a Cell.
I could see that, yeah.
But
maybe not right away, but I could see that.
But like, who would Paige go against if she won? Like Brie Bella, I guess. I don't know. I could see that.
Those are the only relevant divas right now, yeah.
I guess. I don't know. Divas division's starting to really get
the title doesn't
so
mean
more.
anything anyway, yeah.
Exactly.
So we just see the same matches every single week.
We've seen the same freaking matches.
Yeah.
Like, why put on the pay-per-view that we've already seen it? Like, I'm pretty sure it's Cesaro and them on the card.
No, they're actually having that title match on Friday on SmackDown. Yeah, I don't know why they're not doing it at Hell in a Cell, but they're doing it. I don't know if they maybe do a screwy match or a screwy finish to their match on Friday, then build to the Hell in a Cell, but even then that makes no sense. The champions mean nothing because Dolph Ziggler's lost like the last 4 of his matches, which makes no sense. But, John, do you see the fact that Paige was added to the Total Divas cast affecting the outcome of Sunday's contest in that there was a rule or a rumor going around, Stephanie McMahon actually shot down this rumor today, of all things, that any member of the Total Divas cast cannot hold that championship because of timing issues with the show and whatever else. Do you think this hurts Paige's chances of winning on Sunday, and do you still have her as your pick?
I'm still going to keep her as my pick because it would just be one of those rivalries where it just keeps going back and forth. Momentum is going back and forth. It's been like that since SummerSlam, before SummerSlam actually. So I would like you said, that rumor was dispelled, but I would definitely see Paige going over AJ.
And speaking of feuds we don't really care about, Sheamus is defending the United States Championship against The Miz on Sunday night. John, who do you got going over in this match?
This is a hard one because, it means nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Sheamus is up the straps since what, May 2nd? Around that time?
Yeah, May 5th, yeah.
May 5th.
Cinco de Mayo.
So, and he's literally done nothing. He's had, 0 programs with the belt.
Nope.
So, I'd like to see The Miz go over, but then that just puts him back into obscurity. All right, Miz is the U.S. champ now. I'm pretty sure he was just the IC champ a couple weeks ago. It's just like
exactly.
these mid-card titles mean nothing.
None of these titles mean anything. The IC title means nothing. What was that?
I mean, the WWE title has some prestige at least.
I feel like the tag team title has some meaning.
Tag team titles in the WWE title are okay, but the mid-card titles and the Divas title mean nothing.
Well, they've changed so many hands.
Yeah, exactly. And Sheamus, who has held that title for a significant period of time, has done nothing as champion. Like, people forget that he even has a title because he's lost so much, and he's never on TV, and he has no feuds going for him. I just don't get it. But, John, who do you got going over here?
I'm going to go with Miz over Sheamus.
Okay, I've got Sheamus going here, if only because I don't know what the outcome of Friday's title match will be. And titles never really change hands on SmackDown, so I see Ziggler going over. But what I could see happening is that Sheamus wins here. Cesaro somehow wins that title, whether it be on Friday night or the pay-per-view or whatever. And they could possibly do a unification match for those 2 mid-card titles. We've talked about this multiple times in the past. If there's any time to do it, they might as well do it with Sheamus and Cesaro because they've always had great matches. Even still, though, people do not care about the mid-card right now that it would mean anything. I don't really know. But I see Sheamus going over here. Wait, you said Miz? I'm sorry, John, or you said Sheamus?
The Miz.
Yeah, I said I have Miz going over.
Okay, Miz for you. I've got Sheamus. RJ, you the tiebreaker.
I'll say Miz. I'll say Damien Mizdow interferes. Miz wins.
Do you think they feud over the U.S. title at some point later down the line?
Who?
Mizdow and Miz.
Yes.
Okay. That add a little something to that feud, too.
Because he'd be like, I helped you win it.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I can get down with that. I really don't care about Sheamus, so it really doesn't matter either way. If they were going to drop the titles to anyone, it should have been Cesaro and Night of Champions, but they didn't pull the trigger on that. So if he wasn't going to beat Cesaro, I don't know who Sheamus will eventually lose to, but I don't see it being Miz. Maybe they do Rusev Sheamus down the line. Again, no one cares about Sheamus.
But no one would care if Rusev had the title either. So.
No, I know, but it'd make more sense if they had the Russian with the U.S. title and making fun of it. I mean, it'd make more sense than Miz at this point in time. I'm a big Miz fan, but we'll have to wait and see. But I've got Sheamus. You guys got Miz. Up next for the... Actually, nothing on the line here. No championships on the line. But there is something up for grabs. Whoever the loser of this match is has to be the winner's bitch for, and I quote there, for a month. And if they don't comply, they will be forced to quit the WWE. It's Brie Bella versus Nikki Bella, one of the most anticipated matches in WWE history. RJ, I'll start with you. What are you thinking? Brie or Nikki?
Nikki.
Nikki? Any real reason?
She's a heel. She needs a bitch.
And Brie isn't going to be ordering her around for a month.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I don't know. I could care less who wins this match. It's kind of a pointless match. I guess it's a culmination of their feud that's kind of died since. Like, it had a good meeting at first, and then they kind of just killed the whole thing.
The execution was terrible,
yeah,
but...
So, I'm just going to say Nikki Bella. She's the heel.
And they'll continue this anyway, so...
Yeah, they'll just keep going. She'll be her bitch for a month, and then they'll fight over it again.
Exactly. They'll still be feuding until the end of the year.
Kind of like that, like JBL and Shawn Michaels feud when JBL was like...
Exactly.
JBL had Shawn Michaels as a bitch, and then Shawn Michaels beat him, and then he wasn't his bitch anymore.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
It could be the same thing.
That's Survivor
It's
Series,
just another thing for the Bellas to do because they're just something for them to do, pretty much. So I'll say Nikki Bella. Why not?
Nikki Bella. I've got Nikki Bella as well for the same exact reasons. John, who do you got?
It's academic that Nikki Bella's going over here. I mean, there's no logic to have Brie Bella have Nikki as her servant. But yeah, 100% Nikki going over here.
Up next, we've got Big Show versus Rusev on Sunday night. John, I'll start with you. We'll get to RJ's prediction in a second. Who do you got, Big Show or Rusev?
Let me explain. I have Big Show going over via DQ with Mark Henry running down and World's Strongest Man the Big Show.
Didn't we see that on Raw, though, without the Mark Henry heel turn?
Mark Henry running down and... Not Rusev winning, but Big Show winning. Mark Henry turning heel on Big Show at Hell in a Cell.
I got the same thing happening. I don't know if they'll pull the trigger at Hell in a Cell because usually they further tease it, but then they'll just have him. They'll do the turn on Monday night, which is what I'm thinking. But they'll do the turn eventually. I still won't care about Big Show versus Mark Henry, but I think they will give the win to Rusev. They're not going to have Big Show end his streak, and maybe they could have Big Show win via DQ, but they did the DQ finish on Raw and SmackDown for the last couple of their few encounters over the last month or so. So I've got Rusev going over here via pinfall. I have no idea how. They'll have Mark Henry interfere or something along those lines, but I've got Rusev going over here via pinfall or submission. Who do you got? And who do you see turning heel, Mark Henry or Big Show in this feud?
Rusev and then Mark Henry I would see go heel. Why would Big Show go heel? There'd be no reason to.
Meant to rephrase that. Do you see the turn happening?
I could see it happen, but I could give two shits. They already did this before. They had their feud. If anything, I could see like Mark Henry at like the ringside. Big Show knocks Rusev out, and then right when he's gonna go, then he jumps in, and like I don't care though. Like it's just another feud I could give two shits about. So I see Rusev winning. I could care less about Rusev, and I care less about Big Show and Mark Henry.
So you don't see Rusev's undefeated streak coming to an end on Sunday, John?
No, I don't think Big Show's the guy to do it. I don't think he's gonna.
I don't see it happening.
The guy to put Rusev over.
Yeah.
Rusev would go into Superstar main event if he lost the Big Show.
Yep.
Who ended his it's like Bo Dallas's undefeated streak got beat by R-Truth. He's in NXT, I guess. I don't know. It's just stupid. Yeah. You're not if they're gonna have someone beat the streak. Has to be someone that's like meaningful.
Do you think that person's going to be John Cena?
Yes.
You think so?
Yep.
Do you want it to be John Cena? Or
I don't like Rusev, so I could care less who beats him. Honestly.
I know. But we'll transition from that into Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins. One of two matches inside Satan's structure, Hell in a Cell. Brock Lesnar. I don't know why I said Brock Lesnar. I just called RJ Brock Lesnar. RJ, who do you see going over here?
I see Ambrose going over.
Ambrose going over?
I feel like they really, like, Rollins kind of get over him all the summer. And I feel like Ambrose is finally going to get over on him. I'll say Ambrose.
Regardless of whether it continues past this point or not, I mean, within the next couple of years or so, do you see this being the end of the feud for now, or do you see it continuing until the end of the year?
I could see them pushing out through the year, maybe having like them be captains of a Survivor Series team, then culminating it with TLC at the TLC pay-per-view. So.
Oh, that'd be great, actually, yeah.
But just another feud that's dragging their ass along. So I could see going to the end of the year, like I said, they could be captains, Team Rollins or Team Ambrose at Survivor Series. They could put some shitty guys in that match just to fill the card, and then end their feud with the TLC for the briefcase. Rollins gets over.
Okay, is there any feud you do like going on right now?
I like the Ambrose and Rollins feud, but just starting to get a little old.
It's just dragging on.
It's just dragging on. I don't know. I just feel like it's getting way too long.
I agree. I see Dean Ambrose going over here, if only because Seth Rollins won at SummerSlam. He won the next night on Raw. It's time for Dean Ambrose to get a win, and then hopefully from there, like you said, I can see them doing a Rollins versus Ambrose match at Survivor Series, like Authority versus like the up-and-coming baby faces. Like their Survivor Series matches haven't meant anything in forever. Like the whole pay-per-view has lost its luster in the last 5 years or so they don't give two craps about it. But that would be a good idea, though. I would look forward to that if they did that, and then they built towards a TLC match in December. But I got Rollins. I've got Ambrose going over as well. So what about you, John? Who do you see going over in this contest?
I actually have Rollins going over.
Do you really? For what reason?
I think that because he's just Money in the Bank, and he's got the most riding on this. To be honest, Dean Ambrose, he doesn't need to win. Just despite what you guys think, he gets a lot of heat on Raw. If he were to lose at Hell in a Cell, there wouldn't be a massive unfollowing of Dean Ambrose. People would still love him. So there's no reason that he needs to win this Sunday. I think that in order for Rollins to look as badass as he is, he's going to need to go over on Dean Ambrose in epic fashion. And of course, maybe get Ambrose to a turn shot the next day on Monday. You got to prolong this because, to be honest, this is the only program they have going on that means anything. So if this shouldn't end at Hell in a Cell. It needs to keep going until we get Reigns back, until we get Daniel Bryan back, until Lesnar can start wrestling again. This is the only program that we have that means anything. So I think that in order to keep going, we need the heel to go over, so the babyface has something to chase. So I got Rollins going over in Hell in a Cell.
Couldn't you see, like, maybe if this feud ends at Hell in a Cell, maybe they go Randy Orton and Seth Rollins and then Cena and Ambrose going on for the rest of the year? Maybe not just a new, fresh feud, not prolonging this feud, because what's Cena and Orton going to do after this number one contenders match?
Exactly. The matches are going to happen at Survivor Series, and we'll get to that in a second. I don't know what they do with these guys going forward for the rest of the year until WrestleMania season. But on the thing with Seth Rollins, though, I think, and I'm not saying I want to see this, I'm just thinking from a WWE official standpoint. They've done this how many times in the past, where they think that the guy has the briefcase, so he's fine.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that's another reason why they could let Seth Rollins lose. It won't look as bad because he still has that Money in the Bank.
That's why he lost to Roman Reigns on Raw.
Exactly. He still has a Money in the Bank contract. He still has that chance that whenever Brock Lesnar comes back to cash in and get the championship. So I don't think it'd look that bad if he did lose. I feel like even if, obviously Ambrose loses, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but he hasn't won a pay-per-view match in a while that actually meant something. So I feel like him going over on Rollins would give him like that tie after SummerSlam, that they're like kind of like that equal level, and then the next match is adding up with like put one over the other one.
Yeah. I mean, it could very well go either way. I really won't mind either way. There's really like, I won't hate it if Rollins won, or I wouldn't hate it if Ambrose won. It's going to be a great match. I'm looking forward to it. And this is not a testament to that. I think that John Cena and Randy Orton will main event just because we're talking about it last. There's just more at stake. It's main event. It's main event, you think? But the winner of this matchup will go on to get a future championship match. At what period in time? We'll talk about that right now. RJ, I'll start with you. Who do you see going over in John Cena versus Randy Orton? The revisiting of one of the biggest feuds in WWE history, at least modern history. And when do you see that title match happening between the winner of this contest and the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Brock Lesnar?
I wanted to see it happen in Survivor Series. It sounds like it won't happen until 2015, so I can't really speculate when he's going to come back. I want Survivor Series, but it sounds like it's not going to be until January. But some reason I think Orton will get over if it's a pinfall or a submission, or whatever. But I can see Lesnar coming back and somehow like a no contest or something like that. Orton's vying that he hasn't got his title match since WrestleMania yet, and then Cena's vying that he should have beat Lesnar, but then he got screwed. Then they have a triple threat between Lesnar, Cena, and Orton. That could happen. That's a big match if they actually put that together. I would want to see Orton go over. It's just a fresh face, him against Lesnar. Cena and Lesnar, we've seen it plenty of times recently, so I hope it's Cena, Orton and Lesnar. But I wouldn't be mad if Orton and Cena fought versus Lesnar, but I would want to see it more sooner than later. It's kind of getting the content's kind of getting stale. It's the same stuff. We need Lesnar back in the fold to make it mean something. Get newer feuds going on.
Pretty much anything but John Cena going over here is what you're saying. So either a no contest or Orton going over.
Yes.
So with that being said, Brock Lesnar is not advertised for any dates for the next month and a half, which is usually a testament to when he's going to appear on the show. I don't like to buy into that kind of stuff, but it has proven to be right in the past. And the next show that he's advertised for is the Slammy Awards show, which is a go-home show for TLC. So do you think there's a remote possibility that title match could happen in TLC? And do you think Brock Lesnar could, compete in a TLC matchup in 2014?
But the thing is, if you're going to have him come back, why wouldn't you have him come back for one of your 4 big pay-per-views instead of having him come out at TLC? I just don't understand. I don't get, the whole of him having him out. If they really wanted him to come back and they knew he was going to get the title eventually, they could have put it in his contract. You're going to win the title. You need to work X amount of dates. But I feel it's WWE's fault that he's not back yet. I don't think.
No, it's not his fault. No.
I feel like he's getting paid that he could give his 2 shits less. He shows up for Raw for 20 minutes or something like that.
If you're getting paid that much,
exactly.
Why would you care?
But I just think that WWE thought we have Reigns, we have Daniel Bryan. At that point, when they signed the contract before of him not knowing, then these guys go down and Lesnar's not there, and then they're like, "What the hell do we do now?" The title means something because Lesnar has it all that he's won, but it's just starting to really kind of people want to see Lesnar out there. They want to see him out there wrestling. They want fresher feuds. They want to see him defend the title. It's kind of getting to that Rock point. It's is he going to come back eventually? When's he coming back? Survivor Series, Royal Rumble. I want to see Lesnar come back. I don't think it's going to happen till 2015.
I'm kind of in that in-between mindset that I don't really need to see Brock Lesnar on every Raw. It would be great, but...
Yeah, I'm with that. I don't need to see him every week, but I want to see him defend it at the
pay-per-views. Exactly. If he showed up for every pay-per-view, at the very least, on one pay-per-view every few months, like Survivor Series, I'm fine with that, but not to have him not defend at Hell in a Cell, Survivor Series, and TLC is a little much. And it's cutting way too close to WrestleMania season. He's going to only have 1 or 2 title defenses under his belt.
But how long? I think The Rock went pretty long without defending the title because he did wrestle at that Survivor Series, but he was a tag team with John Cena that year. So I'm pretty sure that was the year he had the title too.
No. He didn't win until 2013. He won at the Royal Rumble, defended against Punk at Elimination Chamber, then waited until WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, all right. I was thinking of him coming back, but still, yeah. I feel 3 months without the title is kind of pushing as long as they can.
8 months.
Like I said, at that point, maybe make an interim champion, something that means something, and then they can fight Lesnar.
Exactly.
They need a face. Right now, we don't have a face right now. We need a face, and it's just not there.
The future title shot makes this match mean a little bit more than it was before. That goes without saying. But
obviously.
I just don't, Orton goes over here, let's say. Then by the time Royal Rumble comes around, I completely forgot who's even in line for a title shot.
Also, it's just stupid because, all right, Orlando goes over in October. He could get hurt. He could get hurt in November, Survivor Series match. Then that just throws the whole wrench in the whole plans. He could get hurt at TLC, and he's waiting for this match at Royal Rumble. You need to get this guy back so he can make new feuds and make more. The company's dying in ratings. They need a guy that, will make people watch and have a meaning. No one's gonna watch Raw because there's no meaning to it. Because there's no champion. There's no thing that people achieve. People say I wrestled to be the WWE champion. You can't wrestle to be the WWE champion right now because he's not around. Exactly, so it doesn't make any sense. I don't know. I feel if they're gonna have Orton or Cena go over, they need to have Lesnar fight the next pay-per-view. Or then, they're risking
then
the next month of booking. Exactly.
It's a lose-lose, because no one's going to care about the match, but they need to make it mean something. But
it does mean more than it did. It's just because they fought, Orton and Cena didn't mean much, and then now that has the title match, it means a little bit more, but still Orton and Cena.
I've got Orton going over here. If we're not going to get a no contest, I've got Orton going over here, because Cena, we can't see Cena Lesnar anymore. Why? Why do we need to see that match again? If they're going to do it, then freaking do it at Hell in a Cell. Don't waste my time until Royal Rumble. We've seen this match so many times. And then
then if Cena fought Lesnar at Royal Rumble, he probably wouldn't be in the Rumble match either.
Yeah, exactly. It's stupid. So, that being said, though, I've got Orton going over here. He teased it on Monday with the whole thing with Paul Heyman. Whenever the match happens, I've got Orton going over. But, John, we haven't heard from you in a while, so I want to get one of your thoughts on this contest. Who do you got, Cena and Orton, and when do you see whoever the winner of this match is getting that title shot?
As much as I'd like to see Orton go over here, I have a blind intuition that WWE is going to strike again. We're going to get Cena Lesnar at TLC. I don't think that Lesnar's going to make it back for Survivor Series because he's unadvertised until December 8th. So I'm thinking that we'll see Cena Lesnar at TLC, and that's not what I want, but that's what I feel is going to happen, what we're going to get. That triple threat match that RJ mentioned sounds epic, and I wished we could see that sometime soon. But I got Cena, especially because Cena's never beat Orton in the Hell in a Cell Chamber. He's never beat him in the structure. So I don't know why we see Orton go over again, especially years later. But I'm thinking that Cena's going to go over at Hell in a Cell, unfortunately.
Cena, John, Orton, me. What's your final pick?
I'm still sticking with Orton. If he loses to Cena, where does that put Randy Orton? Cena can he can lose to anyone
They should
and still
continue
be
his
John
redemption
Cena.
story too.
Exactly. He can lose to anyone and he's still John Cena. Randy Orton right now is at a state that he's starting to get momentum. If he loses to Cena again, where does that put Randy Orton back to? It just he's not going to continue a feud with Cena because he's not going for anything. It's not like he's going to fight for him again for another number one contender match. I feel like Randy Orton needs to win this match. I know they want Cena and Lesnar again. They should have done that at Hell in a Cell then. And then if they wanted a number one contender shot, and if Cena lost again controversially, then you have Randy Orton versus Cena at Survivor Series. But I don't get why have Orton lose because he's the one at this moment has the most to lose because then he goes down to that non-factor again like he was this whole summer. He really wasn't that big of a deal. And if you lose to Cena, then he's pat to where he is. And Cena can lose. Like I said, Cena can lose to anyone and he's still John Cena. Exactly. That's why I still don't get why he didn't lose to Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. I'm still mad about that, but that's still for another day. And if maybe Cena does lose, and if Bray Wyatt ever comes back, I don't know what the freak they're doing with him. So maybe if he does come back, maybe he fights Cena again. I don't know. But I feel like Orton has most to lose. If he loses this match, there's nothing really in the future big plan for him. Or Cena can do whatever really. They can do Rusev if they really want to do now. He can fight any of the bad heels or something like that.
There's so many eyes on Orton right now. There is no better time for him to go over. You talked about it the last week. Maybe not on the show. I know we were talking about it before him with all the RKO vines being as popular as ever. Randy Orton was trending on Twitter, I think, over the weekend. It wasn't like during Raw or SmackDown. He was just randomly trending on Twitter worldwide too. So it goes to show how popular this guy is right now and how a babyface turn, anti-hero turn, however you look at it, it should be in the cards for the Viper, and if there's any time for him to go over, it should be on Sunday. But like we said, that's what I want to see happen. But like what John just said before, I think John Cena might go over. My official prediction is Orton, but I would not be surprised if Cena goes over.
I wouldn't be surprised either, but Orton should win. But
on the whole, though, that's Hell in a Cell for Sunday night. I'm not extremely excited. It just didn't even feel like there's a pay-per-view on Sunday. Because all of these matches I couldn't give two craps about. I looked forward more so to Night of Champions because a lot of those feuds weren't as stale. I'm really looking forward to Ambrose and Rollins, but everything else in this show...
Just a repeat of what we've seen already.
Exactly. We've seen every one of these matches before, and I really just don't care. So hopefully we can get in fast-forward mode going into WrestleMania season in the next couple of months. But
they spice up for Survivor Series.
Exactly. Hopefully they can actually make Survivor Series mean something. Remember, John, we went to go see Survivor Series last year at Buffalo Wild Wings, one of the worst pay-per-views.
We did.
Big Show versus Randy Orton was one of the worst pay-per-views I've ever seen.
Best match of 2013.
Oh, that was great. And you almost went to that show, too, because it was here in Boston, right?
I didn't go, though. Thank God.
Thank God. And you went to Money in the Bank instead.
I went to Money in the
much
Bank and WrestleMania, so...
Yeah, exactly. A complete 180 from Survivor Series last year. So hopefully they can make this show mean something. And, give us a few sparks or something. Like in 2012 at Survivor Series, the product was kind of lukewarm at the time. Bam, you had the Shield appear. And they debut and all those awesome matches. We need to see something like that happen at Survivor Series.
I didn't really mind, The Rock and Cena versus Truth Awesome.
Oh, no, that was the year prior.
Was that year prior?
Yeah, that's 2011, but...
I'm just getting my years mixed up.
No, they all blend together.
I don't know. I feel like older Survivor Series meant something. The traditional matches actually meant something. Exactly. Nowadays, they just put them together. If you go back, watch the really old, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003 Survivor Series, that's when, they actually meant something. 2003, I was watching because it's, my favorite pay-per-view ever. It's on my birthday when I was 10 years old. I can't remember it. I cried when Undertaker got buried alive. People can know that now. But, Lesnar was a champion at the time. He didn't defend it. Didn't mean much. No one really cared because he was in the traditional match actually meant something. Cena, Orton, Cena, Angle, they had big names in it, so it was a big, it meant something that Lesnar was in the match. Goldberg fought Triple H later that night. That was the title match, but I feel the older, the traditional tag matches actually meant something. Big names were in it. Randy Orton for the longest time was known. He was a sole survivor 4 years in a row.
Guy, yeah.
He was the man of Survivor Series. He won 3 years in a row, sole survivor. Made Austin leave. That's the year. Yeah, made Austin leave.
Yep.
he was the one after Batista bombed Shawn Michaels. Like Randy Orton, like that's how he kind of like gained his legacy. He was a sole survivor like 3 or 4 years in a row.
That's why
now it means nothing. Like a couple years, like someone wins, it's like, oh, they win now.
Whatever. Yeah, like Roman Reigns was a sole survivor last year. Remember that? He eliminated everybody, but after that, like no one really cared.
Exactly, because it doesn't mean anything anymore.
Exactly. I think that's why Randy Orton. Not even that too. Like he's won a bunch of title matches at Survivor Series. That's why I want to see him go for
the Survivor Series, man.
And it's in St. Louis this year. It's in his hometown, dude. I'm marking so much, dude, because it needs to happen. Like, it writes itself. They're so dumb if they don't do that match. And I'm not even the biggest Randy Orton fan. You're a bigger Orton fan than I am, but I'm just saying this match needs to happen. I don't see it happening at Survivor Series, which sucks. I'll make it happen in WWE 2K15, which is coming out in about a week or so. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, a week or so for Xbox 360 and PS3, and then another month, which is so stupid.
It's so dumb. But...
I don't get that at all, but it's what it is.
yeah. Looks like a great game regardless, though. But that's Hell in a Cell for Sunday, WWE 2K15, and that's going to wrap up WrestleRant Radio for October 21st, 2014. 10 days away from Halloween here near Salem, Massachusetts. I'm looking forward to that. Halloween is one of my favorite days of the year. Should be great, though.
Friday, too.
It's on a Friday, too, exactly. But before we go, John, thanks so much, buddy, for coming on. Always great talking to you. Hopefully we can get you on.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
No problem, man. But, of course, while you're here on the line with us, make sure to plug your stuff. John's Jargon, your Twitter, Facebook, anything you want to plug, man.
Of course, follow me on Twitter @HeelByDesign. That's @HeelByDesign. And you can check my John's Jargon columns on nexterawrestling.weebly.com, where Graham posts all this great stuff, too. I love you guys. Thank you so much.
No problem, brother. I'll see you on November 13th at Northeast Wrestling.
Definitely. That's the 14th, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, November 14th. We're going to go see Kurt Angle and AJ Styles. Better than anything we're seeing in WWE right now, so that should be awesome. But RJ.
There you go.
Exactly. RJ, I'll bring this to you right now. Shameless plug, shout-outs, Twitter, Facebook, blog, go.
Ah, God, I love the shout-outs. You got Molly, Cam, Jeff, Sauce, Jamie. If I didn't say your name, too bad. At Raymond_Marceau on Twitter. My blog's on there as well. Ray Marceau on YouTube. And besides that, I'm going to watch Monday Night Wars when I get back to my room.
Great show. What's
Goldberg? Oh, big Goldberg guy. I loved Goldberg when he came back.
When that show first started, people were like, remember they put up like 3 episodes at once?
No, but the thing is they did with that show was so stupid. They should have done like chapter by chapter, but they did like WCW dies in like 3 episodes. Everyone's like, what the hell? Like, is it over already?
Exactly. It doesn't make any sense. But we'll be back next week talking about Hell in a Cell, Monday Night Wars, all that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, exactly. It was really, really weird because they don't go year by year. They just do all this random kind of stuff like WCW dies, but the next week it's
like the cruiserweights. Exactly. It didn't really mold it together really well. So.
Yeah. But remember when the show first started, they aired all the episodes at once.
Yeah.
And then a fan was like, "Oh, they didn't feature you on the show," and he was like, "Typical WWE, like." Wait it out.
Exactly.
Buddy. Wait it out. They're not done yet. Yeah. It's okay. Just give it some time. But I look forward to watching that too. They have Mick Foley, or they have Goldberg and someone else too. Or I don't know. They already did the exit.
Goldberg's on. I know that. I saw the Twitter picture.
So I'm looking forward to that. But that being said, we'll be back next week with a Raw review and our thoughts on WWE Hell in a Cell. Looking forward to that. If you want to find us at nextairwrestling.weebly.com to listen to all the archived editions of WrestleRant Radio airing live right here on live365.com/stations/ECTV73. So, like I said before, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 Central Time, at WrestleRant on Twitter, Graham GSM Matthews on Facebook. Like I said before, folks, enjoy Hell in a Cell on Sunday. We'll see you next week.